one thing before we get into the review on the John Deere, would really appreciate it if we can get a like and subscribe from you. I mean, I know everyone knows this, but you get subscribers, it monetizes the videos, we can make a little more money, we can actually have a cameraman instead of a tripod, we can have a lot more quality videos, we'll have a lot more videos. The review of this ASV would probably come out a little sooner if it was monetized. Hard to find time to dedicate to doing something for free when you can go spend time making money. So anyway, really appreciate a subscription. It's free for you to give, and it'll help us out. So anyway, really appreciate it if you could give us a like and subscribe, and we'll try to get the review of this thing done pretty quick. I know we've already got the cat video, which I'll link into this video, so you can go check out the cat review, and hopefully we can get this one done soon as well. So this is a 2021 John Deere 333G. I bought it new back in 2021. It's definitely seen a lot of use since then. But yeah, this review has definitely taken a lot longer to get time to make than I expected. But anyway, a little bit of overview on the machine. I believe it's 105 horse. It's as for mulching, it's an okay choice. I definitely would not pick it compared to a cat or the ASV for sure, but it does have positives if you're wanting a slightly cheaper machine than a cat. And a lot of this depends on your dealer support, but a cheaper machine than cat, as it's going to be a little more comparable to the cat, as this will do dirt work. ASV, I would never do dirt work with an ASV. Visibility's poor, bucket control's poor. This, I definitely, everything not mulching related, I love the 333G. There's a few things then, like I mentioned on the other reviews, I might sound like I'm being overly negative about it, but I'm just trying to point out the negatives. Everybody knows the positives. That's what the salesmen tell you. So the specs, all that, I'm not really going to get into that. So starting off, there's this system. It's a grease track tensioner, and which, I mean, the same thing as the cat, but we have thrown the track over and over again ever since it was brand new, with about 50 hours on it through its first track, and pretty much it's got about a little over 1,000 hours on it now, and ever since then it has thrown tracks. So anyway, one thing I don't really like, this area right here catches a ton of dirt. It's very well protected, unlike the ASV, but it builds up with a ton of mud, and that takes you forever to clean, which isn't really a mulching thing, that's just dirt general use. Then one thing I do really like about this, it's a vertical lift instead of a radial lift like the ASV, which is helpful for mulching and other things. So say for mulching, if you're trying to reach up, knock a tree off at the top and go down the trunk, this will go straight down. You don't have to drive forward and backwards. An ASV with a radial lift, you have to move obviously because your point of contact is moving as the boom lowers. This goes pretty much straight up and straight down the way it hinges. So one of the things you really need if you're mulching with one of these is this guard right here. It's from the 333G Forestry package. This does not have the Forestry package, which basically just consists of some extra guards, some covers for your lights up there. Speaking of the lights, one thing I do really like is these have the 360-degree lights. So it's got the LEDs on the front, and then it's got them around the side, and then a pretty bright light on the back. So at night you can pretty much light up a full circle around the machine. But this guard right here, when this was my first ever machine when we started mulching, and so also just combined with a lack of experience, we were breaking our hydraulic couplers very frequently as you'd go up, get tangled in the limbs, and they'd break. So I got this guard. It's 300 something bucks from John Deere, but worth it as it saved tons of quick connectors. Another thing is there's a wire down here for your electric quick attach for your attachments here. So for that that runs to that motor down there, that wire is very prone. I know on my machine and a friend of mine's machine, that wire always getting ripped off or unplugged, and you got to go back and plug it back in. So that's kind of a known issue on here for mulching. I'd come up with something to secure that a little better. This, of course, another thing about this, it just gets ripped off. This horn up here, no machine has a good placement of it. I think Cat's is probably the best, but this is not a good placement. That horn's been ripped off several times. And then the ASV is even worse. They put it down here for some reason, and it definitely ripped off. A couple things back here at the back. You've got this this breather right here, the pre-cleaner, and that same issue as the Cat. They're very easy to get ripped off. just a branch falls the right place, you back into it right, that'll get ripped off. And they're pretty expensive, around $175, $200. So that's kind of a pain. I wish they could put the pre-cleaner somewhere else. On the ASV, it's under the hood, so you don't have to worry about it getting knocked off. Same with this antenna up here. The antenna gets tangled up in this boom as it goes up and down. You can flip it straight up, but then it just gets caught on all the trees. And if you flip it down, then you just have poor reception. But this area up here is much easier to keep clean around your back window than the other machines. You get a few little sticks like this, but you can easily just scoop and slide it off. ASV has a big pocket back there where all the air conditioner stuff is, so all the air conditioner lines, so they back up pretty good there. But this is much easier to keep clean back there. Although this is your intake for your air back here, this little plastic piece for the cabin air, and that definitely if you leave all this junk up here, it'll clog that up, and then you'll lose your outside airflow. And it'll just be running on the interior, which is one thing is not great about the John Deere. The air conditioner is pretty hard to keep clean if you're mulching, if you want it to keep blowing cold air. So as you can see, this is in kind of the service position, but as I'll show in a minute, the problem you have with this design, these covers are great to pull off. This is your hydraulic cooler on this side. I believe, I'm not mixing that up, the other side maybe. One side's radiator, one side's hydraulic cooler. So they're easy to get a power washer into or blow out to some extent, except there's a lot down here that you cannot access because the depth tank right here. So there's a whole bunch that you can't ever clean out. So that's a problem, as all temperatures on here get hot in the summer. And also these are very prone to fire compared to the other two machines we have a lot of experience with. The engine compartment, very crowded. Everything is extremely tight in here. ASV probably has the best engine access to the top of the engine anyway, and then you can drop it. It takes a little bit of work, but you can get full engine access. Cat's a little tighter, but then this is just, you can't do much work on here without getting all this stuff out of the way. You got the exhaust stacked on top, the air filter's all on top, and then just the engine it's really tight in there, which makes the machine a little skinnier, a little more compact, which is nice, but there's just too much going on in there, which also I would say, in my opinion, would cause some of the heat issues that John Deere seems to have. It's just because it's too much stuff in such a small space. It's hard to keep it clean. Underneath, that I'll show you in a moment, there's very few inspection panels or panels to drop junk out from underneath the engine bay, the hydraulic area under the cab. Very hard to get all that stuff out. So that's going to be one of the biggest problems with the John Deeres for catching fires. They are somewhat known to do that. I do like the depth setup on here the most, as this is a nice little sealed area, so you don't get a bunch of junk around there like Cat. It's not very sealed at all. ASV is just all under the hood, so it's okay, but the Cat system's the worst, as I've had a lot of problems with the cap getting stuck and wasted half an hour before just trying to put the cap on or off. So anyway, I do like that, but it is just a bad idea. This radiator it's got a good several inches that you cannot access because of this depth tank here. Over here, you've got pretty much the exact same problem as the other side. Oh, one other thing, this is your hydraulic right here. If you have a 5-gallon hydraulic bucket, there's no way you're getting that bucket in here to pour into that hole without some flexible funnel to get out of here, so that's kind of a nuisance. This is your condenser and everything here, so you can take the battery box off on this side, so you have a little better access to this cooler, and then you just pop this pin, then this will swing out here, and then you can clean the cooler behind it. But anyway, so it was a good idea to some extent, but it could have been a lot better. The cooling, it just doesn't cool that well on here. We've had a lot of overheating issues with this. Your fuel rail cooler is also up there. It goes into like a limp mode, a brief one, but it does go into a limp mode when your fuel overheats, which I've never had that code on an ASV or a Cat, but this thing has thrown it quite a few times, sometimes even before you ever get a engine temperature warning or a hydraulic temperature warning. So to just show this a little more up close, there is no room in this engine bay to do anything. You have a little access to the turbo, and that's about it. Getting the belt off is a pain. I've had to change the belt before, and I've had to change this alternator down here. It's pretty tight as well. So yeah, it is pretty tight in there. Don't really like that at all. This is another problem. This cup right here, it just becomes a great cup for all kinds of junk. This, if you're mulching, will completely fill up and become hard packed, and you cannot get that out. It takes, I mean, it used to take me 30-40 minutes just to blow out each side of it. You can see there's a little dirt in there now, but anyway, those are a pain to get cleared out. They are not any fun. So this is one of the biggest flaws on the machine is, for one, you have incredibly low ground clearance, way lower than CAT and certainly way lower than ASV. But that low ground clearance also, you've got your ports to drop underneath to clean out the belly. You've got these two that'll open up to kind of basically drain water. Then you've got this very small pan at the front, and you've got another one you might can see back there about the same size under the engine that you can drop. That's it. The rest, everything else, you got to lift the cab and blow out underneath it. Now on the upside, lifting the cab is very easy on the Deere, definitely better than the other two. Take this nut off both sides. Cab easily lifts up one person. CAT's pretty heavy with a hydraulic cooler on the roof. ASV, you pretty much have to have another person to help you lift, as that cab weighs a ton. A couple things worth mentioning in the cab is you have an air ride seat. It's a heated seat as well, air ride and heated. Much better than the spring seats that come sometimes on the ASV. One of my other favorite things about the John Deere, you have a 3-point seat belt, which helps me a lot because when I'm mulching, I tend to lean forward a lot, and then I have a sore neck or a sore back at the end of the day. So that shoulder strap does help me keep back in my seat a little better than the lap belts that come on a lot of other machines. So I do really like that. The cabin here is pretty decently laid out. None of this stuff adjusts like it does in the CAT. You can move your seat forward and backwards and up and down, and that's pretty much it. Lap bar here, I like it's really comfortable. The lap bar is really comfortable. It's definitely the best lap bar of the two, in my opinion. I mean, of the three that we're reviewing. So overall, ergonomics in here are pretty good. Visibility is pretty good, especially out of the front. The visibility out of the front is the best in here out of the machines. So I definitely like that, especially for doing dirt work. This is definitely the best dirt work machine there is. Okay, so now that we're inside the machine, one thing you can see right away is the washer is never staying on. That's the line for your washer fluid. It's supposed to be attached right up there, but anyway, it never stays on. So that's kind of a problem. Anytime you get tangled up in trees, there's no guard on that wiper at all. So you can easily get it tangled up in trees. Up here, you've got a very, very outdated system. This is a 2021. The 2022 is the same. I believe 2023 is, although I've heard the 2024 is an all-new digital display. But this display right here is pretty silly, really, that you've got this is your only bit of display. And yeah, so you can just kind of flick through this. Even your temperatures, you get a live look at your engine temperature, but if you want to see your hydraulic temperature, you got to bring it up here. It's just not great. The backup camera, it's pretty low quality. Not sure how it'll look on my video camera, but it's pretty low quality. It's all black and white as well, and it's pretty small. It's maybe a 4-inch display. The mirror up there is nice. I do like having a mirror. The ASV has just a screen up there, and you do not get a mirror. CAT and Deere both have a mirror and a camera. So up here then you've got all your switches and controls. It's an electric quick attach as opposed to the hydraulic quick attach that's on the ASV. Both have their positives and negatives. I like this, that it has a lock and a unlock, unlike the ASV, which is just a one-way switch. Anyway, of course, you've got your reversing fan on this particular version. They give you a nice little instruction booklet there. AC in here, it's very poor. So it has lots of vents, which is great. You got a vent here. You've got even a defrost vent you can open up for the front window. Then you've got vents down here. And then you've got a floor vent down there. So those are very nice to have. They have great vent placement. The problem is the flow is terrible. Very little flow from the air conditioner, and that's even with clean filters, all that. Maybe the day it's brand new, it's okay, but the problem is, so the condenser is right behind the back seat here, or maybe the evaporator, whatever. I get those air conditioner components mixed up, but one of them, a radiator type thing, it gets all clogged up. But that being said, and then you got to also take a bunch of stuff apart to get to it and clean it. It takes a couple hours. So anyway, visibility in here, pretty good. I like the visibility overall in here, a lot better than the ASV, pretty comparable to the CAT. So you do, one thing I do really like in here, there's no key. You power this on, then you have to enter a code in to turn the machine on. Then you just hold down the start button and it fires up. So you can adjust all your sensitivities here, which is nice. You can adjust, it's got the auto bucket leveling dealy on it, where anyway, you can change the different modes of the control switches and everything. So I was going to lift this up to kind of show you the visibility out the side. You can pretty much see down to the tracks. The tracks in here are pretty close into the machines. They're a little harder to see, and that is one complaint I do have that I was going to mention. The tracks are so close to the machine that they build up with a lot of debris, which the machine on here, it is fatter than the Cat and the ASV, even at the tracks. So they needed to put them in as close as possible. Room in here, I'm not very tall. There's plenty of room for me. I'm assuming it's a lot better than the ASV in here, that's for sure. It's not as skinny. The ASV is very narrow inside. But sorry, this is so dirty in here. This actually stays pretty clean in here overall, except someone's been running it with the windows open recently for some reason. Again, poor air conditioner. But also your sky view is much better than in the other two machines, in my opinion. The radio in here is a solid radio. The Cat just runs a standard radio. ASV runs a radio kind of like this, but on the older models, there's no Bluetooth. You get Bluetooth in here. Although one thing I don't like is the speakers are up behind these panels, so it kind of mutes the speakers. If you're running a mulcher, a little hard to hear. You got to really jack up the volume. The view out the back is very good. Definitely better than the other two machines that we've reviewed. I definitely like the rear view, and that you can easily use the rear view camera as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for inside here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I do like you do have a throttle pedal in here. ASV does not give you a throttle pedal. It's an option on Cat. But anyway, that is pretty handy. Oh, almost forgot one of my favorite things about the John Deere. This little lever right here. You lift the boom all the way up, just turn that to the other side. It puts a pin out on the outside and your boom is locked out. That is one thing that is it's kind of scary sometimes. You raise the boom up on the ASV or the Cat, you have to lock it externally. So you basically raise your boom up and then you bail out the door as fast as you can to get out from under the boom as quickly as you can, and then lock it out. But that is much better, being able to lock it from the inside. Here you can see that guard a little bit better. They may not look like much, but it's pretty, it makes a really big difference. So, and then here's also what I was showing about this gap between the tracks here. It's pretty tight. So any debris, it gets wedged in there pretty easily, and then can cause a lot of damage to the inside of your track, which these tracks are pretty worn out anyway. These are the original with 1,000 hours, which isn't usually that much if you're working in dirt, but mulching is pretty tough on your tracks. So yeah, one other thing I was going to mention about the front here too. So the guard is currently off of this as it got bent up. And this machine doesn't get used for mulching anymore anyway, but this entire piece down here with the quick attach, this whole piece right here, all this had to be replaced under warranty. Very low hours, and the pins that drop down hold your attachment on completely ripped off when it had maybe 300 hours on the machine, and the mulcher fell off the machine from about 6 foot of height, ripped all the connectors off, broke not only all these connectors but the entire block they're in, which thankfully they covered it all under warranty, except my connectors on the mulcher side. But everything else they went ahead and took care of under warranty, which I really appreciated. The John Deere dealer we have is incredible. They've been very good to work with. So has Cat. ASV, they're just not big enough. The dealer we have is not big enough to really service like they should be able to. But one last thing I want to talk about, this is your backup camera right here. It's in a poor position with this guard right here, because if you turn too close to a tree, you may miss the tree with everything back here, but it'll catch this thing and completely bend it. So this piece right here has been replaced several times, or if you back into a tree, it just happens when you're mulching. No matter how careful you are, you're gonna back into a tree at some point. And the camera has never been hurt. Camera's always been fine, but this guard is like $70 to $5, ridiculous, but especially since it doesn't work. But anyway, that guard has been a problem. But yeah, that's pretty much it on the easy to break stuff with mulching. These weights aren't well placed. They've been ripped off a few times on this other side. The bolts broke off on them. But We've also had some of these lines, they rub and stuff, and we've had to replace some of these lines. But one trick I found is if you buy an extra, it'll never blow. So I was blowing this line all the time, bought an extra one to keep on hand because I kept having to quit work and go do it. Well, never blown since. So this machine also, one thing I think I mentioned on the Cat, and we'll talk about in the ASV, this thing moves super well at an idle. At an idle, you can do anything with this. The other machines, you gotta give them juice. The tracks in here, as far as movement, you wanna turn in your own length, you can easily do it in here in an idle. Cat, ASV, gotta give them power to turn in an idle. ASV's got wide tracks though, so it's a little more understandable, but anyway, that is one thing I really like about this. You can run it on idle and do almost anything except mulch, of course. And then summing everything else up, the John Deere is an incredible machine for everything besides mulching. I'm not a fan of it for mulching because overheating in the summer, the fire hazard, you look all over Facebook, you'll see a ton of these burned to the ground because the lack of cleaning ports like I showed, they're just not, they weren't really designed for mulching. Even the forestry version just got some extra guards, that's it. It may have maybe some high flow cooler that works a little bit better than this, but really in reality, if you're going to be mulching, you need an ASV. Unless you just don't want to deal with the mechanic stuff, then I would lean Cat. This is the best of the dirt work machine out of the three though, by far. Anything else you're going to do, this is better than it's better. The Cat is kind of a middle ground if you were going to do like maybe 75% mulching. If you're doing 50-50, the John Deere is a reasonable one to consider. Dealer support is usually pretty good for John Deere. Part availability has been pretty good for this thing. Part pricing has been pretty good. I thought it was expensive until I got Cat, and then this was cheap. So anyway, but yeah, it's been a great machine. I love the lift power of this, way better. It can lift almost anything. It's extremely impressive for a compact track loader, very impressive lift. The usable power for everything but mulching is so impressive. It just doesn't have the power for mulching that you get in an ASV. A little bit less than the Cat, not a huge difference performance wise, but the Cat is a little better and the Cat stays cooler. We have in this overheating just constantly. It just was killing our productivity. So if you've got a good dealer network for this, I'd consider it. Oh, if you have a bad Cat, good Deere, I'd consider it over them. But if you're comfortable with working on a machine, ASV is the only way to go. If you want to bid by the job and go in and just knock the job out quick, ASV is the only way to go. All that being said, like I said, I love this machine for everything but mulching, and I am probably going to be selling it though because we don't really do much of anything else, so it is for sale right now. I'm going to struggle to actually let it go. We'll see if I actually will sell it, but it is for sale. If anybody's interested, they can leave a comment or send us a message. Anyway, just go to Dirt Tracks Land Clearing out of Oklahoma on Facebook and send us a message if you're interested in it. It's got a little over 1,000 hours on it, and maybe about 600 of those were mulching. So anyway, it's definitely been used for mulching, but it's also done a lot of other stuff and been great. Final summary, if I have a farm, this is what I'm buying. I'm using some mulching for personal use. And if I may be trying to get into mulching, but I don't know much about working on the machines, or I have a poor ASV dealer around, I'm going with Cat. If I can work on the machines or a good ASV dealer, ASV is the only way to go if you're mulching. If you're maybe wanting to do a lot of dirt work on the side, this could be an option. I'd probably pick the Cat if you're still doing mostly mulching. But this is incredible for personal use. It's definitely the one to have. It's cheaper than the rest. But yeah, this is the best machine for personal use you're gonna get in the 100 horsepower, the big boy range. So yeah, I would use this for personal use around the farm. Maybe do a little mulching for personal use. But the main thing is keep it clean underneath, because they can and do catch fire pretty frequently. I've never had a fire issue with this one, but they do catch fire. You can see them all over the internet. So yeah, that's definitely one thing that I would keep an eye on. So yeah, sorry this video took so long. I should be getting the ASV one done soon, but I thought I'd have this one done a long time ago. So anyway, hopefully I'll get time to get the ASV one out, and then you can compare all three of those. And then I'm possibly going to be meeting up with some people who run Kubota, so we can compare them. I know it's pointless, but anyway, compare Kubota. I also like to get a Bobcat comparison and a TAC comparison. So anyway, we're gonna try to do that. So, yep.
My appetite, don't leave me here high and dry.